It's June and it is cold. And in reality, this is probably just a June strategy. You can take this and you can roll it out for the next 10, 20 years. You can put it into your SOPs. Let's be honest, because every year the same thing happens. Fair Work Commission raises award wages. This year, it's going to be 3.5%. So if you're sitting there going, well, maybe I'll raise my price about 4%, here's why that's not a great strategy. Because we all know in our sector, Fair Work has already come out and said they want grad wages in particular going up 20 to 30%. They don't have a plan as to how that's going to roll out, and they don't have a timeline. Now, this creates a dangerous situation for you as a business owner because, for lack of a better expression, you're kind of up against it. You are kind of up against it because at any point in time over the next 12 months, Fair Work are definitely going to come out and say, we have increased allied health award wages. It is highly, highly unlikely that they're going to do it in one hit. Nobody I've spoken to, I speak to people much smarter than me, nobody I've spoken to has said these changes ever happen like that. This might be the first out of the box thing. You know, you can insure for that event right now if you want to. But honestly, I think it's going to be phased in. That's the base case over like 2 or 3 years with kind of like a softly approach. But even for that to succeed, Fair Work would have to phase it in at about 8% a year, 8 plus 8 plus 8, to get to that 24% target, plus adding in the 4% inflation-based increases. So they're probably going to be adding in around 10% per year in order to get to that point. There's a lot of maths coming through here. I'll put up some slides so we can break that down for you. But let's just zoom out a little bit and just talk about why this matters, because, you know, wages aren't everything. In a service-based business, there are other costs which aren't being impacted. So these two figures don't necessarily have to match up. But in my humble opinion, wages make up a massive, massive portion of what happens in service-based businesses, especially businesses like physiotherapy, because most people are paying more than 50% to their practitioners alone. Then you've got your admin costs on top of that, which is all wage-based. And your suppliers are probably going to be increasing their costs as well. So the only thing that doesn't change is your rent, which you're probably already going to find is going up by about 4%. So almost all your costs are going to be going up at this rate. So it is like 100% kick in the teeth, which it's just an unfortunate thing that happens. But we have to be mindful. Look, if you approach each financial year as a case of, okay, well, we can probably put our price up 5%. Let's go from $100 to $105. You're not actually increasing anything in real terms, in what's called real economically, because real 2025 is already embedding that 4 to 5% increase in price. So your business stays stagnant, if that makes sense. Basically, you increase your price, your costs go up at the same rate, everything stays unchanged, your profits will be unchanged. And this is a real problem. This is a big enough problem. I'm going to take my coat off because it's hot in here. And let's go for this. So what is actually happening? You can fast forward through this if you don't like economics, trust me. But it's called sticky inflation. And this has been in place for the last 4 years. This is a period where inflationary cost of living continues to just hang around and perpetuate through the system. Now, we have arrived at somewhat of a new normal where a bag of groceries now costs $60 and people have just got used to that. But just because the headline inflation rate doesn't say inflation is out of control, doesn't mean all of this stuff is still a problem in the sector across everybody. Just ask anybody who's had to pay for anything in the last 3 or 4 years. The problem we have structural problems in health. We have massive, massive structural problems. And look, if you want to write this down and you want to send it to your local MP, go right ahead. Because in all honesty, that is literally what I would be doing, because I'm so dumbfounded by what is going on in health at the moment. If I were running a health-based business, I would be writing to my local MP to ask this simple question. When prices like Medicare, NDIS, DVA, and a lot of gazetted fees do not go up with inflation, do not go up a reasonable amount for us to run our businesses, how do you expect us to account for 20 to 30% wage increases across the field? We're being squeezed at both ends. How are we expected to function? And that would be an open letter to every single MP in the country to say, hey, give us something. Like, we are getting nothing from you guys, but things that are really going to look good on paper for governments have no underlying substance. There is no path to initiating this. So what is the strategic response? What is the path when everything continues to get more expensive? Here it is straight from me. This is what I'm telling my private clients. I'm not holding it back. It's not a secret in any respect, because honestly, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, because the reason I put this out there publicly is to challenge people to step up, because I think personally, the minimum strategy is an 8 to 10% increase for the majority of private practices. And I would be doing this, and this is where it's a bit brazen, I would be doing this regardless of how busy you are. Because coming back to those two key points, if you just do 4%, you go nowhere. We know that there is a big hit coming to our sector that is going to be wage-based. And if that comes in all of a sudden, your business is not prepared for it. You are better to be on the more aggressive end, sit in that discomfort before the potential event happens where suddenly you do have to increase a lot of staff's wages. Bearing in mind, it's not just wages that kill your business. It's all these compounding costs. It's the fact that super is also going up by 0.5%, which is a very hidden little thing, but that comes straight off your bottom line. It's the fact that people who have been working for you for 6 or 7 years are approaching things like long service leave. Like, if you are actually running a good, sustainable business, you kind of get screwed over, because those people then get a 13-week holiday, which you pay for with no government subsidy. It is hard being a business owner. It is friggin' hard. And if you've come this far, if you've come from before COVID to now, you would definitely get it. Even if you've just opened the last couple of years, you would be realizing how hard business is. And this is why price is always the number one lever in a health business. There are only two ways you can grow your business. You either see more patients or you raise your prices. Generally, a combination of the two needs to be in place at all times. But you can't just run off more patients, because, as we know, the biggest issues in our sector are burnout, poor work-life balance, and, funnily enough, not being paid enough. So we need that price increase across the spectrum for small private practices, for large corporate-run businesses. It's the same game. It's literally the same game. Now, why I'm bullish about this, why I get criticized a lot for this. This is how I ran my practice. We ran a very bullish model, having done price increases where I've made that mistake. I've gone, okay, let's do a $4 price increase. Didn't do anything for my business. 3 months later, I've gone, I've made a big mistake here. I'm going to go $10 and let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens. And absolutely nothing happened. And this is ages ago, when that was going from $87 to $97. I took that up to $119 within another 12 or 18 months. It's possible to do this. You know why? The dominant market, especially for MSK physio, is older people who generally don't have expensive mortgages. They didn't sign on to 1 mil plus mortgages. Most of them have either paid it off or they've downsized or whatever. That is the dominant marketplace for physiotherapy. We all think it's all these young people coming through, but in reality, those people do struggle. And us keeping our price low doesn't actually help them, because they're probably not going to come in, whether that's $130 or $150. You see what I'm saying? We need to focus on the market that can already afford double what our price is. But we have something that they don't. Guess what that is? For most people who come to physiotherapy, they are coming in for health-related reasons, because they want better health. Our job is to serve those people, to take them all the way on that journey to the best health they've ever had in their life, so they can enjoy their life. And most people are coming in because they want to enjoy their life more. They've got money, they've got capacity to do more with it. They want to be more active. But pain, back pain, neck pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, these are the big barriers to them enjoying their life. And this is what we so often overlook, is people are willing to pay a lot more than what you would think to get rid of some of these problems. If I had chronic back pain, I swear to you, if I had serious, like 12 months, chronic, high cerebro, whatever, I would spend 6 figures to get, if someone told me they could get rid of that, I would happily part with 6 figures to be back to a baseline. That's from seeing what chronic back pain is like personally. When we deliver those outcomes for 4 figures, we shouldn't really shy away from what's actually going on here. Now, if you're not busy, this is a problem. This is a problem because, look, when your demand is low and you're trying to increase prices, that is a risk. That is a massive risk to play. But I personally think it's a bigger risk to not try and move up with the market itself, because you will stay in that little rat race, that race to the bottom type crowd, and you'll continue to be underbooked anyway because you're not serving the right marketplace. What I would be leaning into is more advertising. You are putting your price up with the intention of using that money to advertise, to work on your marketing, to get more patients in. Money needs to come in, go out, and come back in again. It's a double flywheel effect. For the clinics who are busy enough, I've always said this, I've never seen a practice raise their price so much that they lose 10% of their clients. I've never seen it. If someone's done it and wants to comment below and say this is what went wrong, I would love to hear it, but I've never seen that in action. And until people start telling me, I will continue to argue that we are underpriced as a service. Yeah, because demand and supply meet at the point where the demand no longer wants to continue the service. I don't think we're anywhere near there. And you know where there is? I think the North Star, and I've said this for a little while, by 2030, but sooner, if you actually want to have a good lifestyle and be profitable, let's get to $300 per hour as soon as possible. And that does mean, look, at the end of the day, you've got to get rid of some of these low cost billing things. Like Medicare needs to be gap payments, and it needs to be substantial. It's not a $20 gap. This is what our fees are. You are paying the difference. Preferred provider schemes, they've got to be gone. You can't be on preferred provider programs anymore. DVA, I think it's sketchy at best how that fits in, but honestly, unless it's a 20-minute appointment and you're somehow structuring that in a quiet part of the day, I don't think it fits in. NDIS, I think for private MSK, NDIS is quirky because it actually runs a fair way below the market rate for physiotherapy in a private practice setting where you've got all your overhead costs and everything. Unless that's your bread and butter, I would really look at that and go, is this bringing in enough to sacrifice the amount of time, etc., or is it blocking us from getting higher paid clients into premium time slots? That's a conversation to have with your team, and you might have to do it on a team member by team member basis because some, especially young staff, probably need that to bolster their caseloads. More experienced staff, your best team member doing 193 an hour session when they could be doing 300 an hour. I would question the unit economics if that's the best use of a senior team member's time. And it's a really unfortunate thing to say. And this is why I do so much in advocacy to try and push these systems to recognize the skill set of highly experienced physiotherapists, especially in neuro areas, and so that they're actually paid appropriately, because the alternative is exactly this, and we've seen it with preferred providers. The alternative is those patients end up being seen by junior staff, and that is what the market is inevitably going to dictate. That is what the government is inevitably going to dictate. So the final takeaway from today's video, and like I said, you can save this, you can watch this in 12 months' time. It's going to be very much the same stuff. Your expenses just went up. They're about to go up 3.5% thanks to the Fair Work Commission. This is good for everybody's wages. Everyone gets a raise. We completely ignore the part where if everybody gets a pay rise, no one gets a pay rise, the whole macroeconomic part of that. And we can celebrate that for all of our employees. End of financial year is the natural time to reset this. You get a free hit every year, July 1. You have to make that count, because when you do the math, you make the call, you are looking at 8 to 10% price increases being necessary. And that is to meet the baseline expectation. You're not going to become a highly profitable clinic just by doing that. You're still going to have to grow your diaries like crazy to outpace what is coming if this 20 to 30% award wage increase comes in. So if you want to learn more about this kind of stuff, this is what I built my entire profits course for. It is built for teaching marketing, teaching how to pay fair wages, teaching how to raise prices, get out of other schemes, get repeat business from private paying customers especially, and become a highly profitable clinic, which we argued with the APA group even, that this should be, the aim for us should be a 20% profit margin across our business. And that is not the owner treating like crazy to cover that up with their wage not calculated. That is with the owner's wage in the books at market wage, which is $130,000, probably going to be $150,000 soon. right now, the best place to come, honestly, come inside and have a look at my people community, because this is where so much of this discussion is happening. It's a community for founders. It's for people to share their wins, share their challenges, talk, support each other. It's a very reasonable offer, and it's a 12-month membership. I'd love you to join. If you're not ready for any of that, have a look at Circle. Check out more of my free content on YouTube. Follow me on social media at Shane Gunner, at We Are Culture of One, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.